This is the day that God has made, but it's more than that. This day and every day, God welcomes us to begin again. This is a new day that God has made and is making, and God invites us to show up and look for God's presence in all things, in the beauty of the earth, in the singing of the birds, in the air we breathe that is needed for life, in the people marching for justice, in the eyes of a child and in the eyes of the dying, in the suffering of the world, in the faith of every individual. God has promised us to never leave us. In all things, God is with us. It is this God that we worship now.
Day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day, this beautiful day, this beautiful day. I was startled out of a dream last night. I was dreaming about leading this opening song in this space, and there were about 25 of our friends gathered with masks, but their masks were off while they were singing. And I literally, when I realized what was happening in my dream, I startled awake, knowing that this is a time we cannot sing together in person communally. But now in the safety of your own space, even though we are separated, we are connected. And I invite you to sing every other phrase with me of this wonderful song from the Native American Church. Last Sunday, our summer worship choir created words for us to sing in the song. And so I invite you to sing every other phrase, because music is still sacred and healthy and meaningful. So let me feel the connection as I sing a phrase and you respond. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This beautiful day. This beautiful day. We have a few worship leaders in the space, and I invite them to hum with their masks or even to clap later as we sing. Thank you for our friends, Spirit. Thank you for our friends. Thank you for our friends, Spirit. Thank you for our friends. These wonderful friends. These wonderful friends. Thank you for the earth, Spirit. Thank you for the earth. Thank you for the earth, Spirit. Thank you for the earth. This marvelous earth. This marvelous earth. Thank you for this beat, Spirit. Thank you for this beat. Thank you for this beat, Spirit. Thank you for this beat. This heartbeat, a powerful beat. This heartbeat, a powerful beat. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This wonderful day.
Our family just got back from an amazing 30-day RV trip out west. 30 days. The trip of a lifetime. It was thwarted once and almost 2 times. The original plans were made for the summer of 2019. However, my mother received a terminal diagnosis and we cared for her almost the whole calendar year. We had flexible enough jobs and physical space and mental and spiritual strength to have the privilege to intimately share her 77th and final journey. We lost a few deposits, but pushed the trip to 2020. Great. Then cruises canceled, museums and Disney World closed, travel was dangerous, but we decided to go and headed to the great outdoors. We had a quarantine of sorts on wheels, so we tenuously proceeded. We had the privilege of health, still honored vacation time, a padded savings account, and discover a container of Lysol wipes to get us across the country. We visited Bryce Canyon, Zion. We rafted the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon and hiked the Bright Angel Trail out of it. We drove all around Utah to amazing and breathtaking vistas, landscapes, and starscapes. I was reminded that my mom had taken my brother and I on a very similar RV trip 40 years before. Joe and I laid in the camper and the truck peering out the window just above the cab, taking in the immensity of the West that had captured a part of my mother's Vermonter heart. She went back several times. Bryce and the Grand Canyon were some of her favorite places. Don't tell the Rangers, but I scattered a very small amount of her ashes on the trails in two of these places, and our family created a quick ceremony honoring her memory. In Bryce, a sudden wind picked up during our silence, and I shuddered at the thought of her spirit's presence. This vacation, this escape from COVID lockdown, Carolina's humidity, the responsibilities of home life was such a gift, an immense privilege that I have difficulty finding words for. It was a time of joy, discovering, and continued grieving. Present for our lives now, re-energized for the near future, Shannon, Porter, Quinn, and I continue to talk regularly about our privilege. We got the chance to escape and reflect. It is now our responsibility to discern what that means for us. The journey continues.
As we offer our prayers this morning, we remember the following people. We begin with a joy. We celebrate with Sarah Benbow, who turned 90 years old on Thursday. Sarah was able to celebrate with her children at Glen Eyre, where she lives. Happy birthday, Sarah. We now turn to our concerns. We pray for Jim Pike in the death of his cousin's husband, Carl. Carl died on Thursday of COVID-19. Carl was a concert pianist who played around the world. Jim writes, a layperson, Carl was Mr. Baptist of Ohio. Jim was very close to Carl. We hold Jim and Carl's wife, Ruth, in our prayers. We hold in our prayers Larkin Taylor Parker. Larkin's grandmother, June Driscoll, died of COVID-19 last week. She lived in Arlington, Texas. We hold Larkin and the family in our prayers. Serena Buckner's stepmom, Becky Blankenship, broke her hip. She lives in Morehead City. We remember Becky in our prayers and pray for her healing. Chris Jones, Nancy Jones's son, is now recovering at home from open heart surgery. Nancy reports that Chris is doing well. And we continue to hold Carla Rector in our prayers as she goes through her radiation treatments for breast cancer. And today, we remember and honor the lives of two civil rights legends, the Reverend C.T. Vivian and Congressman John Lewis. We offer our deep gratitude for their lives and living, and we pray for their families in this time of grief. offer our prayers this morning, we invite you to join us. After each line is read by one of us, join us in the response, "You were there," acknowledging the presence of God in our lives.
I was a baby and I fell down the last 2 stairs. I cried. My parents cried and held me.
You were there.
I was a toddler, screaming at the top of my lungs at the injustice of being forced to eat vegetables.
You were there.
I was a preteen, struggling with my gender identity, and no one understood me.
You were there. I held that knife to my wrist, unable to move, lost in my own head and my own body.
You were there.
I was 17, pulled over for a busted taillight. Before I knew it, I was on the ground, hands behind my back. "I can't breathe," I said.
You were there. Long nights working to pay for my education, hours of studying and tutoring, and tears.
You were there.
Months unable to get a job with looming student debt.
You were there. Shaking in nervous excitement as we said our vows.
You were there. The overwhelming sense of love and fear and sleep deprivation as my first child entered the world.
You were there. The heartbreak of losing my mother.
You were there. I lost my job because I believed in the power of love. We sold our things just to make ends meet.
You were there.
My brother lost a baby. We were all broken.
You were there. I held my little girl while she cried on the couch and told me what he did to her.
You were there.
The weddings were beautiful. It was so good to see them so happy.
You were there. Watching my children have children was remarkable. I was so proud.
You were there.
My body began to fail and my medicine cabinet filled up.
You were there. When the cancer returned and I knew this was the end.
You were there.
As I lay in the hospital bed, breathing my last.
You were there.
Thank you for this prayer, Spirit. Thank you for these prayers. Thank you for these prayers, Spirit. Thank you for these prayers. These healing prayers. These healing prayers. Give to us your peace, Spirit. Give to us your peace. Give to us your peace, Spirit. Give to us your peace. A calming peace. A calming peace.
Our scripture reading this morning is from Genesis chapter 28. It is the story of Jacob's dream at Bethel. Jacob left Beer-sheba and went towards Haran. He came to a certain place and stayed there for the night, because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones from the place, he put it under his head and lay down in that place. And he dreamed that there was a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. And the Lord stood beside him and said, I am the Lord, the God of Abraham, your father, and the God of Isaac. The land on which you lie I will give to you and to your offspring. And your offspring shall be like the dust of the earth, and you shall spread abroad to the west and to the east and to the north and to the south. And all the families of the earth shall be blessed in you and in your offspring. Know that I am with you, and I will keep you wherever you go, and you will bring you back to this land, for I will not leave you until I have done what is promised to you. Then Jacob woke from his sleep and said, Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. And he was afraid and said, How great is this place? This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven. So Jacob rose early in the morning, and he took the stone that he had put under his head, and set it up for a pillar, and poured oil on the top of it. He called that place Bethel.
Today, as Brian mentioned, we remember two civil rights legends, C.T. Vivian, the Reverend C.T. Vivian, and Congressman John Lewis, both of whom pushed America closer to our founding ideals. C.T. Vivian was born on July the 30th, 1924, and died on July the 17th, 2020. He was an American minister, author, and close friend and lieutenant of Martin Luther King, Jr. during the Civil Rights Movement. Reverend Vivian resided in Atlanta, Georgia, and founded the C.T. Vivian Leadership Institute. President Barack Obama in 2013 honored Reverend Vivian with the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian honor. In his remarks, President Obama said of Reverend Vivian, he shrunk the gap between reality and our constitutional ideals of equality and freedom. Reverend Vivian himself said these words, leadership is found in the action to defeat that which would defeat you. You are made by the struggles you choose. John Robert Lewis, born February the 21st, 1940, died July 17th, 2020. U.S. Representative for Georgia's 5th Congressional District from 1987 until his death. American civil rights leader. In his book, Across That Bridge, A Vision for Change in the Future of America, Lewis writes this. He writes, you are a light, you are the light. Never let anyone, any person, or any force dampen, dim, or diminish your light. Study the path of others to make your way easier and more abundant. Lean toward the whispers of your own heart. Discover the universal truth and follow its dictates. Release the need to hate, to harbor division, and the enticement of revenge. Release all bitterness. Hold only love, only peace in your heart, knowing that the battle of good to overcome evil is already won. Choose confrontation wisely. But when it is your time, don't be afraid to stand up, and speak out against injustice. And if you follow your truth down the road to peace and the affirmation of love, if you shine like a beacon for all to see, then the poetry of all the great dreamers and philosophers is yours to manifest in a nation, a world community, and a beloved community that is finally at peace with itself. In a speech in Charlotte, North Carolina on September the 6th, 2012, Lewis said this. He said, "My dear friends, your vote is precious, almost sacred. It is the most powerful nonviolent tool we have to create a more perfect union. And just this year, on March 1st, standing atop the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama, the same bridge 55 years earlier that he was bloodied and beaten by police, he said, standing on that same bridge, get in trouble, necessary trouble, and help redeem the soul of America." To these two men, civil servants, civil rights leaders, disciples of justice love, defenders of democracy, suffering servants, prophets and proclaimers of truth, portraits of America's greatest virtues and values. To them, we pause, and in a minute of silence, we offer our gratitude for their lives and their living, and our grief in their death. When I was about 6 or 7 years old, my parents bought me a Daisy Red Ryder BB gun. I know, I'm shaking my head too. God only knows what I did to convince them or to wear them down to actually buy it for me. The times were different back then, the late 1960s, early 70s, rural America, family farm, closest neighbor a mile down the road. How much harm could I really do with a Daisy Red Ryder BB gun? Well, here's what happened. I was spending the night at my grandparents' home and had taken my prized BB gun with me. Uncle Earl, a lost soul and the family rebel, was also spending the night. He often showed up at his parents' home after a brief stay in the county jail. Anyway, Uncle Earl was about as excited for my Daisy BB gun as I was, and all the eager to teach me how to aim and shoot. Before bedtime that night, he said to me, "Now when we wake up in the morning, I'm going to teach you how to aim at things." So sure enough, that next morning after breakfast, Earl gave me about an hour-long lesson on how to take aim at a target. As my lesson was coming to a close, Earl announced that he had to leave to go get a haircut. Now, Earl didn't have a car, so that meant that he was borrowing my grandfather's car to go get his haircut, which happened to be a fairly new purchase. He went into the house for the car keys, jumped in the car, and as he was pulling out, hollered back at me, "Sis, you keep practicing, I'll be back soon." As he backed out of the driveway and headed down the road in front of the house, I took aim. To this day, I don't know what I was aiming at. It really doesn't matter. What happened next was possibly the first real life trauma for me. I aimed and I squeezed the trigger, and the next thing I heard were brakes squealing and crashing glass and my Uncle Earl screaming. After what felt like an eternity, which I'm sure was seconds, everything went silent. As Uncle Earl stepped out of the car and I got a good look at the shattered car window, fearing that Earl might be hurt or fearing the wrath of my grandfather, I threw that Daisy Red Ryder BB gun down on the ground, ran into the house, and locked myself into the bathroom and refused to come out until my father arrived. The instinct to run and hide when one is guilty of wrongdoing is strong. For nights thereafter, I would have these crazy dreams about shooting out car windows. I thought of this story when I read our biblical narrative for today, Jacob's dream at Bethel. Our text begins, as Porter read it, Jacob left Beersheba and went toward Haran. Now, it's not obvious from where we enter the story why Jacob has left home and family and headed east toward Haran across the Jordan. But the answer sure is familiar. He's in trouble. He has taken aim and shattered the windshield of family trust and honesty. You see, Jacob is running for his life from his family because he has stolen both birthright and blessing from his twin brother Esau. The first theft, the result of his bargain with Esau, birthright for stew. And the second theft, the result of disgust and disguise and bold-faced lies in the presence of his dying father. Esau is furious at his brother and has threatened to kill him as soon as their father dies. But protecting her favored son, Rebekah creates her own lies and convinces Jacob to flee to Haran to find a wife, suggesting to him that it was better and he was better than mixing with and marrying the locals, who were mostly Canaanite women. So fleeing from trouble, Jacob heads toward Haran. As night falls, the narrative says, he came to a certain place and stayed there for the night because the sun had set. And then we read that he takes one of the stones of the place and he puts it under his head and lies down. And as he sleeps, we're told, he dreams. He dreams that there is a ladder set up on earth and the top of it reaches to heaven. And on this ladder are the angels of God ascending and descending. In this dream of Jacob's, the Lord stands beside him and says this, I am the Lord, the God of Abraham your father, the God of Isaac. The land on which you lie I will give to you and to your offspring. And your offspring shall be like the dust of the earth, and you shall spread abroad to the west and to the east, and to the north and to the south, and all the families of the earth shall be blessed in you and in your offspring. Know that I am with you and will keep you wherever you go and will bring you back to this land. For I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. Now, I will admit that I wasn't using a stone for my pillow on those nights after my Daisy Red Ryder BB gun incident. But I can assure you that my crazy dreams after shattering my grandfather's car window was nothing like Jacob's dream. My dreams were filled with the various scenarios of what could have happened as described by my parents in the lecture they gave me after the incident. Your Uncle Earl could have been badly hurt. He could have even been blinded by the glass that shattered all over his face. And for that matter, another car could have been coming down the road and Uncle Earl could have run into it. Even worse, I could have shot out the window of someone else's car. As I faced my wrongdoing in my dreams, these were the themes that played out at night. But not for old Jacob. No, Jacob dreamed of ladders and of angels and of heaven and of God's promises and God's blessings to him. Now, I must admit to you that I wondered, as I lived with this text this week, what I expected and even wanted God to say to Jacob in his dream. Maybe for starters, I expected or wanted God to say to Jacob, "Really, Jacob? After all the trickery and lying you've done, you expect me to keep my promises to you? Just how deserving do you think you are? You've not even so much as said you're sorry yet. And yet you are dreaming of my steadfast faithfulness and love." Well, Jacob, that's just not how it works. But we get none of that. Instead, what we get is an affirmation to Jacob of God's promise and blessing. Know that I am with you, and I will protect you wherever you go. I will not leave you until I have done what I promised you. As I read those words again and again this week, I remembered what my grandfather said to me after I shot out his car window with my Daisy Red Ryder BB gun. After my parents had finished with me, my grandfather, a man of few words but a strong presence, walked over and looked me in the eye and said to me, "We all make mistakes. The window can be fixed. But Nancy, you must remember that you are responsible for what you do with that BB gun. And I want you to know that I still love you." I loved and admired my grandfather. And as I think back on that experience, while I couldn't have named it at the time, my biggest fear was that my grandfather would be mad at me and not love me. Hearing his words of promise of love for me, when I clearly had messed up, was indeed a blessing and a gift. It struck me this week that there is a Jacob inside all of us. We make mistakes. Some are small and insignificant and have few consequences, and some are big and significant and have many consequences. Most often when we mess up, our instinct is to head east toward our Haran or to lock ourselves in our symbolic bathrooms. Our dreams are filled not with ladders going into heaven and angels ascending and descending and God's voice speaking to us, but rather our dreams are filled with our fears and our insecurities and our guilt. We see neither angels nor hear God's voice reminding us of God's promise and blessing to not leave us until God has done what God has promised. No, in these moments, we are more likely to be looking for a God created in our own image, rather than seeing ourselves in those moments as created in the image of God. This week, I came face to face with the Jacob inside of me. I could tell you the story, but it's not really about the story. The point is that I recognized Jacob in myself. I was wrong, deeply wrong, in how I treated and spoke to another human being. Sure, I could justify my actions, and you might even understand why I acted as I did. You might even agree. But the fact remains that I was not the person I want to be, nor the person I believe God wants me to be in those moments. And as I laid my head on my stone that night, all I could think about was how deeply I must have disappointed the one who created me. But then I remembered Jacob's dream. Know that I am with you and will keep you wherever you go, and will bring you back to this land, for I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. Know that I am with you in your joys and your suffering, in your wrongdoing and in your desire to live in kindness, in your confession and in your redemption. I am with you. I will keep you wherever you go. In your despair and in your hope, in your longings and in your fulfillment, in your highs and in your lows, in your journeys toward Haran or locked up in your bathroom. Wherever you go, know that I am with you. And I will bring you back to this land, not a physical location on a map, but the land of God's kindness and compassion and kingdom today. The land where all are welcome, the land where all are accepted, the land of plenty where all have enough, the land where the sick are cared for, the land where justice partners with mercy and compassion, the land where love drives out hate, the land of freedom for all, the land of kindness where we speak words of compassion when we're most distressed. This land I will bring you back to, for I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised. God has promised that every valley shall be lifted up, every mountain and hill be made low, and the uneven ground shall become level, and the rough places a plain. God has promised to loose the bonds of injustice, to undo the thongs of yoke, to let the oppressed go free. God has promised that justice shall one day roll down like the waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. God has promised that when we pass through the deep waters and through the rivers, that God will be with us. And when we walk through the fire, the flames will not consume us. Yes, God has promised abundant life to all. Oh, may we dream this dream until it is America's and the world's true identity. One could argue that Jacob's time at Bethel wasn't a great moment of change for him. Jacob, throughout his life, like so many of us, keeps forgetting God's promises and lives as though he can make things happen by hook, by crook, by sheer force of will. He forgets that, in the words of John Lewis, the battle is already won. Like so many of us, Jacob keeps relying on himself, grasping for what he thinks he needs or deserves, trapped in an ego that blinds him to the promise of a loving God. But underneath those waking actions is an unconscious that knows. And that unconscious reminds Jacob that God's blessings can't be bought or sold or stolen. Jacob, for all he is, has left us with a dream to remember. A dream that both invites us and challenges us to remember that God's promises and blessings are with us until that day when we become the fulfillment of God's beloved community here on this earth. And so, my friends, as we do the hard work that lies before us, the work that John Lewis and C.T. Vivian gave their lives for, it will serve us well to remember Jacob's dream. Know that I am with you, that I will keep you wherever you go, that I will bring you back to the land of the kingdom that I originally created. For I will not leave you until I have finished what I promised. A dream to remember. And it might be well to also remember my grandfather's words, but with one correction. We all make mistakes. Things can be fixed. And, not but, and we must remember that we are responsible for what we do. And through it all, we remember God does not leave us.
Let us respond by singing of this constant presence in our lives. Join me in singing the last line of each stanza you find printed in your worship guide. Spirit of God, spark of creation, glowing in all, burning and bright, fire on the mountain and flame on the altar, pillar ablaze to illumine the night, light of the presence divine, Spirit renew us and shine. Deeply within, seemingly silent, working unseen, life-giving source, particles vibrating, pulsing, expanding, spreading the universe, powerful force, active in all and alive. Spirit renew us and thrive. Whispering voice, inner discernment for every choice, thoughtful and clear, channel of wisdom, conveyor of feeling, from the beginning, the word that we hear, always speaking to all, Spirit renew us and call. Always beside, constant companion, going before, guarding behind, ever surrounding, supporting, inspiring, urging us forward to seek and to find, comforting friend at our side. Spirit, renew us and guide. Breath on the wind, swift and refreshing, stirring within daughter and son, filling the young and the old with new visions, dreams of a world where all people are one, human division to mend. Spirit, renew us and send. Our congregation celebrates many milestones in the lives of our members and of our friends, and we do these with various rituals. And one of the rituals of the music ministry is to present to fifth graders who are a part of our children's choir our worship book, a chalice hymnal. And so today I wanted to surprise Quinn Neely, who is one of our worship leaders today. And Quinn, we want to say thank you for your participation, your faithful participations since second grade in our children's choir. Quinn has been a worship leader in our choir, and she has been a leader. And Quinn, you might have guessed that right in front of you is your chalice hymnal that we proudly and gladly present to you. And so we hope that you will use it and remember your experience as you prepare to join our youth group and our youth choir. We're grateful for you. There you go.
What a joy it is to worship with you on a Sunday morning. I don't know that you have known this, but we have been recording our services for the past several weeks just to make sure all our technology was in order. But we're actually here Sunday morning right now with you, and I want to give a special shout out to everyone who's made this happen, who's worked hard. Brooks Wicker, Warren, Henry, Nathan, Brian, Lee, Dana, Deaton, our whole communications team that has helped us get back on track and be together, actually really be together on Sunday morning to worship from our various places. And so it is wonderful to be with you this morning in that way. I hope you are staying well and healthy, and for certain we do hold these in our family who have had those to die of COVID in our closest prayers and our hearts, and reach out to them by phone and card and email to let them know that we are thinking of them. To Janice, who continually shows up, whether it's on a Saturday or Sunday, to help us worship and to lead us in music with Larry and the choir, and now the Neely family today, we are so grateful, and it's just exciting to, even in this time, to be able to feel connected and to be together with one another. Wherever you are, let us stand for our benediction. In the words of John Lewis, you are a light. You are the light. Never let anyone, any person, or any force dampen, dim, or diminish your light. Go forth into this world safely and be the light of God's love and God's compassion. Go in peace.